In the golden age of Hollywood, the major studios like MGM, Warner Bros., 20th Century Fox, Paramount, and RKO exercised tight control over their contract stars. If an actor or actress went against the studio for any reason, either it was by refusing a role, demanding script or casting approval, or seeking more money, they often faced swift and harsh retribution. Studios could suspend them without pay, refuse to cast them on quality projects, or even smear them in the press. Here are the worst punishments that Hollywood actors had to face backstage. Kicked out of Hollywood. One form of control used by studios was the dreaded suspension. If an actor refused a role or challenged a studio decision, they could be suspended with no pay and barred from working for anyone else. This effectively held their career hostage. The legendary actress Bette Davis famously battled Warner Bros. In the 1930s when she felt certain roles were beneath her. She took them to court and lost, which led to multiple suspensions. Another tactic was the loan-out, where a studio would send a rebellious star to a lower-tier production company, often for a less prestigious project. The goal was to keep them locked into a demanding schedule and remind others that disobedience had serious consequences. Beyond Bette Davis, there were other cases that highlighted these punishing practices. Olivia de Havilland fought a historic legal battle with Warner Brothers over the length of her contract, eventually scoring a victory that helped reshape Hollywood contracts. Even James Cagney faced suspensions when he pushed back against roles he deemed unsuitable. These strict measures were not the only ones used to keep stars in line, but they certainly stood out as some of the most crippling. By controlling every aspect of a performer's career, from choosing projects to dictating personal behavior, studios effectively maintained a culture of fear and submission, ensuring that most stars stayed in their assigned lanes and rarely questioned the system. Bette Davis versus Warner Brothers. In the 1930s, Bette Davis was becoming a star in Hollywood, but she faced a big problem. She worked for Warner Brothers' studio, and they kept giving her roles in movies that she thought weren't good enough for her talents. She knew she could do better, more challenging roles, but the studio wouldn't listen. In 1936, Davis decided to take a bold step. She traveled all the way to England, hoping this would break her contract with Warner Brothers. She believed that by working on English films, she could escape from the studio's control and find better roles. This was a huge risk for an actress in those days because the big Hollywood studios had almost complete control over their actors. But Warner Brothers wasn't going to let her go easily. They took her to court, saying she had broken her contract by leaving. The court case was a big deal in Hollywood at the time. Davis fought hard, arguing that the studio was treating her unfairly by not giving her good roles, but in the end she lost the case. When Davis returned to Hollywood, Jack Warner, the head of Warner Brothers, wanted to teach her a lesson. Whenever she refused to take roles she didn't like, he would suspend her, meaning she couldn't work at all and wouldn't get paid. This was his way of showing other actors what would happen if they tried to fight against the studio system. But here's where the story takes an interesting turn. Even though Davis lost her court case, her brave stand actually led to something good. Warner Brothers started to realize that they needed to treat her better if they wanted to keep her happy and get the best performances from her. They began offering her stronger, more challenging roles. One of these better roles came in 1938 when she starred in a movie called Jezebel. This movie, and others that followed, helped Bette Davis become one of the most respected and celebrated actresses of her time. In a way, even though she lost the battle in court, she won the larger war by proving her worth and forcing the studio to recognize her talent. Nothing to eat for days. During Hollywood's golden era, appearances were everything, and many studios exercised near-total control over how their stars looked, most visibly with actresses. One of the most tragic examples was Judy Garland, who started her career at a young age and quickly found herself at the mercy of stringent dietary demands. Studio executives worried about weight gain and aging, convinced that even minor physical changes could damage box office appeal. Garland later described being fed diet pills to curb her appetite and boost her energy, alongside strict rationing of meals. Handlers would monitor her closely, confiscating food if she exceeded her daily allowance. This was not an isolated case. Young women entering the industry often faced relentless weigh-ins and beauty checks. Something as natural as a few extra pounds or acne could lead to scolding and real threats, like suspension without pay. The pressure to conform to rigid beauty standards sometimes forced actresses to wear uncomfortable corsets or other tight garments on set for extended hours, causing bruising and even difficulty breathing. Yet they had little choice but to endure these conditions, as defiance could derail their entire career. Over time, the damage was not just physical, but deeply psychological. Many actresses developed eating disorders and relied on prescription drugs. Some to stay thin, others to cope with the constant stress. Hollywood's obsession with youthfulness and the perfect figure meant that simple factors like getting older, experiencing natural body changes, or just needing a normal meal became sources of anxiety. While these stories might sound unbelievable by modern standards, they reveal how profoundly the studios manipulated their performers, shaping them into star personas, often at the cost of their health and well-being. End to a career. Refusing the advances of a powerful studio executive could mean the end of an actress's career. Roles would vanish overnight, and the phone would simply stop ringing. The casting couch was an open secret. Speak up, and you risked blacklisting. One often cited example is Joan Collins, who claimed she lost the coveted role of Cleopatra to Elizabeth Taylor after rebuffing a Fox executive's proposition. In her retelling, the moment she declined his invitation, she sensed the atmosphere freeze. Soon, the part slipped away as though it had never been offered. Judy Garland's early years at MGM were clouded by rumors of inappropriate behavior from studio head Louis B. Mayer. While Garland never explicitly detailed all her experiences in public, biographers have noted her discomfort around him. Similarly, Shirley Temple wrote in her autobiography about a disturbing incident with a producer who made unwelcome overtures. She stormed out, shocked and furious, only to sense a cold shift in how she was treated afterward. Whispers of retribution echoed through Hollywood's hallways, leaving actresses acutely aware of the consequences of saying no. Studios wielded the power to bury promising careers under fabricated scandals, or worse, simply discard the actress entirely. Conflicting accounts and a code of silence kept such stories hidden for decades, but the message was always clear: capitulate or suffer. Despite the threat of ruin, some did refuse, and paid dearly. Yet in doing so, they opened pathways for future generations to stand firmer against these abuses, chipping away at Hollywood's darkest traditions. Abusive conditions for child actors. The world of the 1930s and 1940s, Hollywood often painted child stardom as a fairy tale dream, but the reality behind the scenes could be shockingly harsh. With few labor regulations or advocacy groups to protect them, child actors find themselves at the mercy of studio heads, directors, and even their own families. One of the earliest and most notorious examples is Jackie Coogan, remembered for his performance alongside Charlie Chaplin in The Kid. Though he earned vast sums of money during his youth, Coogan's mother and stepfather spent most of his fortune, leaving him nearly penniless as an adult. This case was so egregious, it spurred the creation of the Coogan Law, which legally mandates a portion of a child performer's earnings be set aside until they reach adulthood. Still, many children slipped through the cracks before such protections became standard. Shirley Temple, arguably one of the biggest child stars in history, recalled how directors would sometimes yell at or belittle young performers to force tears or emotional reactions on camera. While not always physical in nature, these tactics could be devastating to a child's self-esteem and mental health. And in extreme instances, rumors arose of directors who would slap or spank child actors to make them cooperate or deliver a certain expression. Although hard to confirm in specific detail, such anecdotes highlight the rampant power imbalance at the time, when studios often considered child actors as little more than replaceable commodities. On top of verbal and at times physical abuse, these young performers were required to work grueling hours, sometimes far exceeding what regulations, if any existed, permitted. Rehearsals and filming schedules stretched late into the night, leaving minimal time for sleep, education, or simply being a child. With limited breaks and constant demands for top-notch performances, many kids experienced physical exhaustion, emotional strain, and stress-related illnesses. Morality clauses and personal life intrusions. Throughout the golden age of Hollywood, studios didn't merely dictate what happened on set. They also tried to control stars' off-camera lives through so-called morality clauses. These contractual stipulations gave studios sweeping authority to police behavior that might tarnish their carefully cultivated brand. Something as simple as visiting the wrong nightclub or being seen by someone of questionable reputation could land a star in trouble. In extreme cases, rumors or even insinuations about sexuality, particularly regarding queer identities, could lead to blacklisting or devastating career setbacks. The pressure was especially severe for actresses who became pregnant outside of marriage. In a time when single motherhood was widely stigmatized, studios sometimes coerced women into undergoing secret abortions or sent them on extended vacations to conceal both the pregnancy and birth from the public. These forced medical procedures, once viewed as a necessary evil to protect a star's image, are now recognized as deeply invasive and abusive. Equally unsettling were the studio-approved surveillance methods. Private investigators were occasionally hired to follow actors, dig into their personal lives, and gather any compromising details. If a star was caught doing something that could be construed as immoral, the threat of scandal often hung over them like a sword, pushing them to comply with whatever the studio demanded. Directors and executives wielded these potential revelations as leverage, an unspoken reminder that the cost of disobedience could be public shaming or loss of a lucrative contract. Even Ava Gardner had an abortion due to MGM's penalty clauses. During her marriage to Frank Sinatra in the early 1950s, film star Ava Gardner underwent an abortion, a decision largely driven by her Hollywood studio contract. At the time, MGM enforced penalty clauses for actresses who became pregnant, threatening to suspend them and cut off their salaries if they had a child. According to Jane Ellen Wayne's book, The Golden Girls of MGM, Gardner explained that she felt compelled to terminate the pregnancy because she needed to maintain her income and career. Sinatra was reportedly unaware of her decision. Gardner also noted that MGM arranged the procedure in London and ensured it was kept quiet. This revelation illustrates the strict control major studios exerted over their contract stars during Hollywood's golden age. Actresses not only faced demands about their public image, but were also pressured to avoid motherhood lest it interfere with filming schedules or perceived marketability. Gardner's experience underscores how studio contracts of the era could profoundly impact private, life-altering decisions. Actors were humiliated in public. If a star clashed with studio heads, the studio's publicity department could launch smear campaigns against them in the press. Missteps in an actor's personal life might be exaggerated, or rumors might be planted to tarnish reputations. This tactic served as a warning to other contract players. Do as you're told, or risk public embarrassment. In the words of a famous Manchester-based paparazzo, Aaron Parfit, "I think a lot of people are quite dumb about how it works. People think we are scumbags hanging out of trees, but these celebrities are ringing us. I've been on holiday with celebrities. Most of them are reality stars. We go to Spain, shoot 6 bikini sets, and stick them out throughout the month." In reality, Hollywood's publicity machine could be ruthless. For instance, when Bette Davis fought Warner Bros. Over creative freedom, stories soon circulated portraying her as difficult. Similarly, when Joan Crawford departed from MGM press leaks magnified her alleged demands, damaging her reputation. Studios sometimes fed gossip columnists juicy tidbits, true or otherwise, aimed at punishing rebellious stars. These exaggerated tales of diva behavior or personal scandals weren't just about selling newspapers. They maintained the balance of power. By branding outspoken actors as problematic, the studios made an example of them, ensuring the rest of the roster stayed in line. Organized crime was real. The story of organized crime in Hollywood took a dark turn in 1969 when members of the Manson family entered Roman Polanski's home, resulting in multiple deaths. This violence made many people believe that organized crime had deep roots in the movie industry. Research over time has suggested that organized crime's influence in Hollywood continues today. During Hollywood's golden age, singer Frank Sinatra was believed to have connections to organized crime, particularly through his relationship with mob leader Sam Giancana. As a member of the Rat Pack Entertainment Group, Sinatra often performed shows in Las Vegas, where mob leaders frequently attended, adding to stories about Hollywood's criminal connections. Deaths with unclear explanations have added to these stories throughout Hollywood's history. For example, movie director William Desmond Taylor was killed in 1922, and his murder was never solved. Similar unexplained deaths of actors and producers over the years have led people to suspect criminal involvement. Hollywood establishments like the Trocadero nightclub became places where movie stars and studio executives would meet with known criminals like Mickey Cohen. The connection between Hollywood and organized crime continued past the Golden Age. For instance, when the horror movie The Texas Chainsaw Massacre came out in 1974, it was distributed by Branston Pictures, a company that people suspected had connections to organized crime. You had to be part of wild parties. Wild parties were real, and you had to be part of this. If you refused, you were punished. In the shadowy corners of Hollywood mansions, extravagance and secrecy mingled with ambition and fear. Word spread among aspiring actors. To climb the ladder, you needed to attend these exclusive gatherings, where deals were sealed over narcotics-laced cocktails and whispered blackmail threats. Those who refused invitations risked losing opportunities or found themselves quietly edged out of casting lists. At these gatherings, powerful producers and studio heads set the rules. Surrounded by adoring sycophants, they nurtured desires that bordered on deviant. Liquor flowed freely, and the supply of illicit substances seemed endless. Rumors circulated about forced encounters, hush-money transactions, and the quiet disappearance of dissenters from Hollywood's social fabric. Journalists who dared to probe too deeply often received harsh reminders to keep silent, sometimes in the form of retracted interviews or canceled press credentials. Stories persist that no star was immune from the demands of these events, regardless of public image. Some say the threat of scandal was a potent tool wielded to secure compliance or coerce sexual favors. The fear of being blacklisted or worse loomed heavy. Even today, a hush lingers around the old estates, as if the walls themselves remember. Though times may have changed, echoes of these legendary parties remain in Hollywood lore, serving as cautionary tales for anyone craving the spotlight. Fame, they say, has a habit of hiding the deepest secrets behind its glitzy facade. Beware all. Auditions were public. Auditions were public and gruesome. You had to do it in front of many men. Even Hollywood's most iconic actresses have endured harrowing trials under glaring spotlights and unrelenting scrutiny. Susan Sarandon, beloved for her roles in The Witches of Eastwick and Dead Man Walking, once recounted a chilling memory from her early career. Led into a room by someone she believed would advance her prospects, she was forcibly thrown onto a desk. Shocked and shaken, Sarandon refused to allow the incident to define her, stepping away and never looking back, an early testament to the cruelty behind closed doors. Emmy Rossum, best known for her enchanting performance in The Phantom of the Opera, faced a similarly disturbing scenario. She was asked to audition in a bikini, despite the script featuring no such scene. When she requested more context, she was met with evasive responses, underscoring the exploitative tactics used to diminish aspiring actresses. Refusing to comply, she showed that boundary setting is possible, even when power dynamics are grossly imbalanced. Gwyneth Paltrow, now a household name, also encountered inappropriate advances in the audition room. A casting director once suggested moving their meeting to a private setting to finish the rest, leaving her shaken and worried for those with less influence or confidence. These stories pull back the curtain on the dark realities of Hollywood's casting process, revealing the strength required for women to navigate a system often fraught with hidden dangers and questionable intentions. Animals are treated poorly in Hollywood. Despite many celebrities speaking out in support of animal rights, disconcerting reports continue to emerge about the mistreatment of animals on Hollywood film sets. These incidents raise pressing questions about the industry's commitment to animal welfare. One high-profile controversy unfolded in 2017 during the making of A Dog's Purpose. A leaked video seemed to show a dog being coerced into turbulent water, sparking widespread outrage. Subsequent investigations revealed the footage had been edited in a misleading way, yet the uproar underscored a vital need for stricter on-set protocols and transparency. Unfortunately, mistreatment of animals on film sets is far from new. In the 1925 production of Ben-Hur, shocking scenes were staged that led to dangerous horse falls. Likewise, many classic westerns featured stunts that posed considerable risks to horses, often prioritizing dramatic realism over the well-being of the animals involved. Such revelations expose a troubling side of Hollywood's pursuit of cinematic spectacle, where animals may be placed in harm's way. While there have been notable efforts in recent years to address these issues, such as more robust oversight measures, the industry still faces significant challenges. As audiences become increasingly aware, the pressure is on studios and filmmakers to adopt and enforce guidelines that ensure the humane treatment of animals in every production. They make things disappear. In action movies, we often see characters who help criminals make evidence and problems disappear. But Hollywood has its own real-life version of these people, known as fixers, who work to make scandals and unwanted stories vanish before they reach the public. This secretive world came into the spotlight in November 2002, when a Hollywood fixer named Anthony Pellicano was arrested. The arrest came after investigating threats made against journalist Anita M. Bush. She had been working on sensitive stories about the film industry and a powerful Hollywood agent named Michael Ovitz. At the time, she was also investigating whether mob money had been used to finance one of Steven Seagal's films. Age of Innocence, Audition, Exploitation. Hollywood's mistreatment of women is well documented, and many of its worst examples revolve around humiliating and exploitative audition practices over the decades. Actresses such as Megan Fox, Lena Headey, and Charlize Theron have all described unsettling situations of objectification during casting sessions. Megan Fox recalled that, during her Transformers audition, she was told to wash a car while Michael Bay filmed her very closely. Lena Headey, famous for portraying Cersei Lannister in Game of Thrones, disclosed that certain audition tapes were often privately removed by producers and directors for questionable personal reasons. Charlize Theron recounted a distressing story about a private audition where a director welcomed her into his house, wearing pajamas and pushing her to drink. Realizing the scenario was improper, she maintained her resolve, firmly refusing to submit to his unsaid demands. These accounts show how exposed actresses are early on, and how much courage it requires to challenge such predatory practices in their paths. Although these women ultimately found success, their ordeals remain very vivid warnings of the harsh obstacles still confronting many women in Hollywood. Age is more than just a number in Hollywood. Jane Fonda once said, "Ageism is alive and well, and Hollywood often proves her right. In the entertainment world, older actors, especially women, face fewer job offers after a certain age, usually around 40. This is because Hollywood strongly values youth, believing young faces sell more tickets. Actresses feel pressure to stay looking young, sometimes turning to cosmetic surgery or strict diets and exercise. Even so, age catches up, and some parts become off-limits. Jane Fonda, who has enjoyed a long and successful career, has openly discussed how ageism affects her and others like her. The problem gets worse when studios expect actresses to hide their real age. For example, rumors about Margot Robbie's age created a stir, showing how much Hollywood obsesses over youth. While stars like Meryl Streep continue to succeed, they are exceptions. Their triumphs don't erase the overall reality. Hollywood's preference for youth pushes older actors to the margins and makes it clear that age is not just a number in show business. Organized exploitation at parties. Late one evening, a young actress, new to Hollywood, was invited to a mansion high in the hills for what she believed would be a chance to meet influential producers. Instead, she walked into a world of lavish decor, endless champagne, and whispered warnings from other guests. Rumors floated through the crowd. People in power used these parties to control careers, and anyone who refused their advances might be shunned in the industry. Throughout Hollywood's history, such tales of secret gatherings have persisted. One well-known example is Heidi Fleiss, called the Hollywood Madam, who, in the 1990s, managed a high-end prostitution ring that catered to powerful clients. When she was eventually arrested, the scandal pulled back the curtain on an elite social scene filled with money, manipulation, and stories of exploited actors and models. Many people were shocked to learn that star-studded parties could also be fraught with hidden dangers. Even today, allegations keep emerging against famous names, reminding everyone that behind the glamour, a darker side can lurk. While some celebrities shrug off these accounts as mere gossip, others hint that the real truth is far more unsettling. In the end, these stories are a stark reminder that Hollywood's sparkling image can hide troubling secrets beneath its luxurious surface. The price of perfection. In an industry where a person's perceived image is the bedrock of their fame, it's no surprise that celebrities go to extreme lengths for perfection. From chasing rapid weight loss to undergoing multiple cosmetic procedures, these methods often carry a hidden price: serious health risks. Over time, female celebrities have tried it all. Marilyn Monroe, widely considered the epitome of beauty, secretly battled an eating disorder that haunted her for most of her life. She had to contend with relentless pressure to maintain her famously slim figure, a burden that only intensified with her growing fame. In more recent years, the prevalence of eating disorders has only increased among Hollywood stars. Actress Naomi Watts once admitted to virtually starving herself for days leading up to a red carpet event, all in pursuit of a flawless look under bright camera flashes. Tragically, some performers have slipped into depression, the toll of both physical and emotional strain, revealing another of the film industry's hushed-up truths. So the next time you see actresses posing in glittering gowns, remember that many of them struggle behind the scenes. Beneath every radiant smile and perfect photo opportunity, there may be a battle with self-doubt, extreme dieting, and mental stress. The quiet cost of clinging to Hollywood's exacting standards of beauty. Things did not stop here. Hollywood had some weird ways to work. War was big business for the studios. World War I sparked a major surge in the American film industry. Audiences sought both a way to escape the harshness of everyday life and reliable updates about events on the front lines, needs that Hollywood fulfilled by producing lighthearted movies as well as newsreels shown in theaters. Meanwhile, European film production slowed due to fighting, giving American studios a chance to dominate the market. This high demand also led to faster technological progress, helping Hollywood grow even more. During World War II, celebrities took an active role in supporting the war effort. Bette Davis founded the Hollywood Canteen. A few stars went a step further and enlisted in the military. Clark Gable, Jimmy Stewart, and Leslie Howard all joined the armed forces, while Marlene Dietrich's dedication to the troops earned her the Presidential Medal of Freedom. In both world wars, movies and movie stars played significant roles. They provided distraction, boosted morale, and shaped public perception, showing just how profitable and influential Hollywood became when the world was at war. Gossip columnists damaged reputations. One of the many ways studios controlled stars and their images was through the powerful poison pens of gossip columnists Hedda Hopper, a former actress, and Luella Parsons. Hopper's and Parsons' careers were completely dependent upon information studios gave them. Examples of their handiwork include Hopper's frequent negative coverage of Charlie Chaplin over his politics, controversial paternity suit, and marriage to an 18-year-old when he was 54. Her work contributed to Chaplin being prevented from entering the United States in 1952. Parsons also ruined Ingrid Bergman's clean image by revealing her affair with Roberto Rossellini. They eventually married. Hopper and Parsons feuded with each other as well. The two were friends, but the studios turned them into bitter enemies, pitting them against each other as they did stars like Bette Davis and Joan Crawford. The goal was control, and it was very effective. New York University professor Moya Luckett explained to Vanity Fair, "What they did in some ways was more difficult than what we have today. They were very sophisticated in making it look like there was independent reportage, and there was a possibility for truth to be obtained by journalists like Hopper and Parsons.